appreciate that. Cool. All right. We are recording. Welcome to another episode of Listen to Us Rant About Movies. I'm Wes Ford.
And I'm Zach Harris.
We rant about movies and drink while we do it. Sean Pierce is back-to-back episodes. He has returned. We're going to be counting down our top 20 films of the 2010s. And that's going to be real interesting. We're going to talk about the whole decade and what film has meant for these last 10 years. Yeah. Welcome back, Sean.
Thanks for having me. Truly an honor to be here.
The list king is back.
A lot of people clamored for this. I wasn't planning on coming back, but a lot of people wanted it.
We locked him in, you know?
Yeah.
The crowd demanded it, you know?
Absolutely.
What is everyone drinking?
I've got Hopewell Off Black, which is a black Pilsner.
Nice.
Pretty good.
You like it?
Yeah, solid.
I put a lot of thought into mine. Really, when it comes down to the decade of beer drinking, one beer stands taller above the rest. Miller High Life. Champagne of beers.
Champagne of beers.
Couple of factors went into this beer pairing. It was available, it was cold, and it's probably going to be a long night, so I figured I'd get something a little lower alcohol.
I am just getting over being sick, so I am not drinking. I'm drinking Coke Zero. That's what I'm drinking.
Oh.
You're on the hard stuff over here.
You know. But, yeah, before we get into our countdown, we'd like to remind you that this podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/LTURAM. You can choose from 180,000 titles from your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. And if you like what you hear on this episode, remember you can find other episodes of our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube. All right, we're going to start off by talking about just our general thoughts on making these lists, for one, because we can all agree this is probably the hardest thing we've ever done in our lives, right?
Yeah.
Definitely list-wise, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, hard, yeah, but I mean, definitely most important.
Yeah.
I would say that I have switched around my list a lot since I started it. And there's a lot that I wish I could include, but I did not include. However, that being said, I tried to add things for my list, at least, some culturally relevant things that I feel like have left an impact within the past decade. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so,
I tried to have some stuff in there that kind of reflects the decade a little bit, as well as, obviously, just my favorites of this time.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. And it was a hard thing to determine between ratings and favorites and cultural relevance, you know? That was the hardest thing. Because I started by, putting in, my 5-star movies from Letterboxd, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's there's so many of those. There's a lot in that decade. But it's I can't forget this because that has had, more of a lasting impact, or, I've never forgotten this movie. It's still there, even though it's not technically a 5-star. I don't know. So that was the hardest thing for me.
Time changes, it's
Absolutely.
I was pulling up my previous lists after I made my list and being well, what were they ranked before? And there were certain ones that are flipped, and it's certain things that I ranked low and then went, oh man, I ranked that way too low, and then they've just aged like a fine wine. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Right.
For me, I had creating this list. I had two strict things I tried to keep to. One is, I don't know why, but the only way I could make sense of this list is no repeat directors.
Yeah,
so
I did the same thing.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know if that's... I mean, it doesn't actually make any sense, besides the fact that it just helped me make a list. But, I was what of this director do I like the most? I didn't want it to be 4 films of one director or that sort of thing. So to eliminate some clutter, that's one thing I did. And then as far as... For me, I just did favorites, cultural relevant. That was too hard. So I just did like, what do I respond to? And a lot of that came down to rewatches and what have I recommended to people as like, oh, you got to see that.
Yeah.
So that was really what stuck into me.
Interesting.
Yeah, I also did the director thing. I think it was
cool.
a way to, like narrow it out, but also it's interesting because it's like you pick the best one, but there could be two from the same person that would land in like different spots on your list, and maybe they would both be there. There's a specific example that might be, I don't know, would get potential controversy, but it's like if I didn't include that, then their other film would be lesser. So it just made more sense to me to not do the repeat director thing.
That's fair.
And yeah, I think I also generally went for favorite. I think there are some, maybe not based on rewatches, but based on like impact. You know what I mean? That's like, or things I like respect highly. So there's certain ones that maybe are in there more of like something that I just think is very well done, but it's not something that I rewatch all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say the rewatch factor was lesser for me. Did you rewatch any movies, Wes, making the list?
I didn't, no.
I rewatched one today just because I had time. Did you?
Are you talking today? I feel like you watched it like weeks leading up to this, didn't you?
No. Well, I watched one, but not specifically for like the list. Like, did you watch anything that you're like, I should watch that before I make my list?
I mean, I thought I was gonna do that, and then I've been busy.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
I would say that there's a couple that, because I made my list a couple months ago, and then saying it to like my wife and to some of my friends, they were like, "Oh, I haven't seen that." So then we ended up watching it. So been a couple, but for the most part, there wasn't any. There was no intentional first time watch. I will say that.
Yeah, I didn't do that either. I did one rewatch. That was the only watch
Wes,
I did.
any intentional first time watches from the decade?
No. I honestly haven't had a lot of time, but
yeah.
Yeah, no, I haven't rewatched any of the movies that are actually on my list. Well, I'd say none of them intentional for the list. Some I've probably seen the last, month or two. A couple of maybe. I've seen maybe the last few months. Because spoiler drop, got a couple 2019s in there. But
a
couple. Okay.
Oh
yeah.
I don't have.
And that was a hard thing for me. Speaking of which, is like I had a lot of movies I loved from 2019, but I can't put my whole top 10 in this. You can't do that.
Yeah.
No,
so which ones you picking? Like which ones are? So that was.
It's
a hard
hard
thing
because
for me.
it's kind of like you gotta like feel out which ones will stand the test of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is tough,
but also
Totally.
easy. Like for certain ones.
Certain ones,
they shine a little brighter, and you're like, oh, I might not have seen you 5 years ago for what gem you truly are.
No, exactly, yeah.
All
right. Well, with that being said, obviously we're doing 20, so we'll keep most of our responses somewhat shorter than probably our top 10s, but because there's just like a lot to get through. But we're gonna get into it. Number 20 of the top 20 films of the 2010s. Sean, you're kicking it off.
20 on the 20s on the 10s. Man.
Let me just change one right now. Starting early with some changes. I'm gonna go with Birds of Passage.
Okay.
Ooh.
Which I guess technically is a 2019 film, so I just lied. But yeah, I saw this movie 2 years ago, and it was my number one of 2018, and was just real smitten with this one. Rewatched it, loved it. Yeah, it's really good. It's sort of, Zach talked about it last episode, but it's a sort of cartel story done through the perspective of family and heritage, and just really like that type of film, but then feel like I've seen it a few too many times where it just sort of subverted expectations, and there's enough surreal elements that like I think I picked up on even more the second time. So I really like the film, and just a real number 20. You know, it's just like,
Hell yeah, man.
haven't seen it, check it out.
Still one I haven't caught yet, so gotta catch
Worth a watch.
it. Yeah,
Worth a watch.
Definitely wanted to watch it for even our top 10 for 2019, and yeah, I just didn't get to it. Definitely got to catch it now. It's on the number 20 of Sean's list, so it's a big deal. All right, so we're going to me. My number 20 is The Witch.
Nice.
Ooh.
Yeah, this one was teetering through the list, up and down between the 20s. And I just felt like I had to include this one because, and I did rewatch this before watching Lighthouse, Robert Eggers' film. And it really hit me when I rewatched it before then because, I don't know, having watched The Lighthouse, actually I watched it after The Lighthouse than this. And having watched it after The Lighthouse, I was like, man, this movie has a quality that just, I feel like it can stand the test of time. And it's got like a classic timeless feel. And it's haunting. I love the imagery. And Black Phillip, you know, that's a culturally relevant thing that I've seen since then, and I feel like this film has had just lasting power for many of the elements that it's had, as well as an influence on me. And yeah, I recommend it. I think it's just a great horror film, and I love Robert Eggers, and I'm excited to see what else he does beyond this and The Lighthouse.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, man.
yeah, The Witch.
Cool. My number 20 is Certified Copy.
Oh.
Which was the one I rewatched. I rewatched it today. And when I made my list, I just kind of like didn't look at anything and just kind of like jotted down probably like 10 to 15 that like came out off the top of my head of like ones I knew were great, you know? And I would say it probably hovered just above 20 for the most part. I never really had like a shitload I had to whittle down.
Sure.
But it was always in there, and I hadn't seen it for a long time. And I found myself with 2 hours today, and I was like, you know what? I have no fucking idea where I'm going to put this on my list. So I should probably rewatch it. It was a great rewatch. And just a really interesting movie with a lot going on under the surface, but seemingly not much going on. Kind of morphs and changes over the course of it, and it's really great execution, really great performances. He's a great filmmaker, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's just it's extremely interesting conceptually, and it's like
Passed away this decade?
Yeah, he did pass away this decade. It's a bummer.
Oh wow.
It's just very expertly constructed, and everything feels so meticulous in it, and there's so much behind everything that's going on.
Sure.
But you could also, it's paced really well and entertaining, and I don't know. It's just it's kind of it's a hard one. You know, it's a hard one to pin down.
It kind of starts as almost like a before sunrise type movie, and then becomes something different, and then flips that. It's just it's very dense, and
like starts as like a meet cute, and then at the end it's like, what is objective reality?
Yeah.
It's like it's a really crazy movie, and
with ever going to 11, you know, it's like,
exactly.
Like, it's always subtle in its blowing up of narrative and plot and structure.
Very subdued, and I think that sort of like minimalism I've come to respect greatly.
Sure.
So yeah, it's a banger.
Cool.
Number 20.
Certified copy. All right, we're moving on to number 19.
Awesome.
Sean.
19. I'll try to keep these shorter. I know we're trying to keep 20 to 11 short. If Beale Street Could Talk. I think this one was in the top half of 2 years ago, but the rewatch really, it's very emotional. Love it. Barry Jenkins really liked Moonlight, but I don't know, there's something with it that I felt like the structure, to me, I had to like relearn the characters every time and where they picked up, and I didn't feel like that one grabbed me as much each time. But Beale Street Could Talk, very emotional. It's on Hulu. Check it out. Check her out.
It's a great pick. It's one I forgot about
Yeah.
to add, but it's a movie I love. Definitely it's worthy of the list for sure.
Yeah.
My number 19 is Whiplash.
Nice.
Yeah. This is a movie that has also just stuck with me. I have the vinyl record of the music in this movie. I think the music is fantastic. Damien Chazelle's first film. Obviously, he's found much success since then, and I still think this is his best movie. And it's a wonderful little gem that I feel like is forgotten a lot, and worth checking out for anyone who hasn't seen it before, and one that I feel like it's one of the better films from this decade, and one that I just wanted to make sure got some notice. So
Sweet.
yeah, Whiplash, 2014.
I love the final drum off.
Oh yeah,
It's good.
it's amazing.
All right, my number 19 is Mad Max Fury Road, which is just a fucking killer action movie that's extremely well executed and is very impressive. Has a lot of great world building ideas, and I mean, we all know it. It's a banger. It's a banger movie, you know.
It's a banger,
fun.
man.
Yeah,
It's a great movie.
definitely the best action movie I've seen in a really long time. I think that's a pretty general consensus, you know.
Absolutely worthy of the list. Yep.
Yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on to number 18. Sean.
Great. My number 18, Park Chan-wook's The Handmaiden.
Very nice.
Love this film. Kind of blew my mind the first time I saw it. Love when you feel like you know where the story's going and then you're just completely wrong. I love to be wrong without feeling cheated.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really think that this is a great movie, and feel like it's really kind of forgotten. It's a bummer. It's on Amazon Prime. Check her out.
It's a winner for sure.
Yeah, man, it's a good one. My number 18 is The Tree of Life.
Nice.
Terrence Malick movie. Love it. Love this movie. I feel like his stuff started to go downhill after this. At least some of his most recent stuff, except for apparently his 2019 film, which I still haven't seen.
I haven't either.
Neither have I.
I really want to see
What
it.
a shame, boys. What are we all doing?
I
You guys
know.
want to hit a pause on this bad boy?
Living life right now.
Let's go.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tree of Life, a very ambitious movie. I love the entire concept of this film, the feel of it. Just a great freaking film that I think is worthy of everyone's attention. I love how it starts ambitious and it starts literally with the dawn of time and goes through just to this one modern story while going through time. And yeah, just one of my favorite Terrence Malick films. So felt like I had to throw it in there.
Banger, bro.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's me.
That's me now. So waiting. All right, my number 18 is Kim Ji-woon's I Saw the Devil.
Oh.
Which is just like some of the most entertaining. I mean, it's obviously really disturbing and shocking, but the first time I saw this, I was like blown away. Just the pacing and the action and the way it's executed, all the characters. It's super fun while remaining I kind of lost my train of thought there. But what's this beer? I'm feeling it. But yeah, I don't know. It's I think that the editing is some of the best I've seen in a long time. It's fantastic editing, and all the performances are great. Love Kim Ji-woon, and yeah, I don't know. Not much else to say. I'm skimming over it.
Didn't make my list, but I watched that movie so many times.
Yeah.
I had like a torrent and would watch it.
It's so
Anytime
watchable.
someone would come over, I'd show it to them, and it was like 2.5 hours, but like you never were
I had
like
to pee at home the whole time I watched it. I like had to pee and I just held it. Like,
yeah.
and it's a
That's
weird
a-
one because it's so watchable, but it's also so horrible. that I don't know
Yeah.
how they like make it that watchable. You know what I mean?
I've heard a lot about that movie. That's one I just haven't caught.
Oh, you gotta watch it.
Kind of like
Yeah,
a fun
you gotta catch
torture
it.
porn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how fun. Yeah, how do you encapsulate fun torture porn? That's a tough one, you know.
Yeah, very easy for a certain.
What's that?
It's very easy for a certain group of people.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's my 18.
Very cool, man. We're moving on to number
Sweet.
17.
Nice.
John.
My number 17 is La Havre.
Nice.
It's a great movie from, I don't know, 2014, 2015. Don't really remember. Immigration tale. Love the filmmaker. Just sort of, it feels like a very important issue, but done in a really fun way. Really like the way it's structured. There's a lot of goes into it. Really cute dog. Yeah, I think if anyone is looking to watch a foreign film about immigration that is also very funny, it's probably the only one I could think of recommending. And it's just I don't know, it's very moving, and I'd recommend anyone check it out.
It's a banger. That was one of the ones teetering on the edge for me. It's a very good one.
All right, cool. My number 17 is The Handmaiden.
Nice.
Yep. Following up on Sean there. Yeah, just a great movie. I think it's a masterpiece in many ways.
So good.
And one that it's kind of, I feel like it's kind of been forgotten a little bit, but it's it cannot be forgotten. It is one of the greatest. So I think it's absolutely amazing. And just talking about it, I feel like I need to give it a rewatch. But definitely a movie that had a lasting impact on me. Blew my mind when I saw it, and everyone needs to catch it for sure. It's The Handmaiden.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. My number 17 is Dan Gilroy's Nightcrawler.
Nice. Oh man, I debated that one, dude.
Yeah, I really like Nightcrawler a lot, and it was a really big surprise when I saw it. Just an interesting world to be, steeped in. The performances are great. It's a very well written script. Looks slick. Not a lot of complaints, baby.
Great performance as well.
Killer performance, yeah, from everyone. Got some Bill in there too. Got the Pax man going a little bit.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Little taste of Pax in there,
Cool.
All right, good pick. Okay. I like it. We're got a good pace going here. We're going to number 16.
Number 16. Real quick on Le Havre. Totally fucked up that date. 2011.
Yeah.
Kind of forgot
I
how
thought it was
long ago the
earlier,
movie
but
came out. But yeah, Aki Kaurismäki, champion. Great Finnish director. If anyone hasn't seen his stuff, very funny. All right. Go back to number. Sorry, I said it correctly. Off by 4 years.
I honestly, I didn't want to say anything, but I was looking it up earlier.
You
I was like, was this part of the decade? Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was even.
Speaking of movies that start with L, my number 16, Leviathan.
Ooh,
It's a documentary entirely shot on GoPros in a fishing vessel. Just really, really cool experimental film that kind of blew my mind. And it's one of those movies that I love because they're so theatrical. Yet you watch it and you're, it's just a bunch of GoPros in a fishing vessel. But if anyone could go see that in a theater, I'd tell them to if they have like a interest in experimental film or film. So I think that's really cool when you can get that takeaway, but also, love the film. Amazing sound design. I'd say that's like probably one of the best sound designs. Like I don't know how something like that isn't up for an Academy Award based on just sheer impressiveness. And just it shows that a great concept and wonderful execution can surpass a budget of millions of dollars. Just lovely film. Leviathan. Check her out.
It's a real winner.
Yeah, one I haven't caught either. I heard great things about, so got to catch it.
It's cool.
Good stuff. This is what's great about these top 20s is like I feel like our lists are going to be wildly different compared to our top 10s of the year or whatever. Mm-hmm. All right. For sure.
So much to choose from.
My number 16 is Inception.
Nice.
Yeah. Obviously, Christopher Nolan. If there's one thing I feel like has, rippled an effect through movie scores, it would be probably this score. It's definitely one of the highest things that have had some kind of impact on cinematic scores. When this movie came out, it was known for the wow sounds and all that, and I feel like that has had quite an impact on film leading forward. And just a really entertaining blockbuster film that was very ambitious and something that I feel like no one could really pull off except for Christopher Nolan. And the way that he is, the way that he portrays everything that he wants to show in this film. Just a big budget mind twister film, and one that I don't think will get many of the types like that, unless it's in his hands. So, yeah, Inception.
Yeah, man. It's an impressive movie.
For sure.
My number 16 is Jim Jarmusch's Patterson.
Oh, man. Great pick.
This is a tough one. Love Jim. What Jim am I putting on there, But I think Only Lovers was the other really close competitor. But
yeah,
I think this one has aged really, really well for me, and it's just very nice, and it's a change of pace just in terms of, I guess, general things. It's very much in line with his aesthetic, but I don't know. It's just a very nice movie that celebrates things that should be and rarely are.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's a great movie. I love that one, and yeah, it's a great pick, man. Great pick.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Cool.
All right.
My 15. Switch things up a little bit. Going Patterson.
What? What do you have on there?
No. It was Patterson. Yeah.
I thought you meant you were switching your list up.
No. Love Jim Jarmusch. Definitely, I would say, going into the decade, he was someone that made me want to make films. So that's as far as decade reflections. Going into the decade, stuff like Down by Law kind of blew my mind in high school.
Totally.
Yeah. So actually, last Friday, I rewatched Only Lovers just because it was I saw someone had put it on this Plex and I watched it because Zach and I went to a Jim Jarmusch concert last week.
Yeah. And
nice.
It was cool.
It is so good. The concert was fine, but Only Lovers is so good that I almost switched up Patterson, but due to my one rule, I kept Patterson. But I think Only Lovers and Patterson are neck and neck. Patterson.
It's a pretty close one.
I agree.
I just feel like it's like barely a movie. It's something that would be such like a short film in the wrong hands and be terrible, but it's stretched out to feature length in like the perfect way. It almost has a short film structure, but just elongated in this really beautiful, breathy way. And there's certain things I still think about, certain lines, and the way they talk about poetry in a way that isn't eye-rolling. Like, I don't know how. Like, I'm a little allergic to poetry sometimes, so like the way that they do it, very unpretentious. I love his approach, and I love some of the thoughts about translating poetry. I think one of the things is like going swimming with a raincoat on is describing reading translated poetry. Certain things like that are just love Patterson, number 15. Check her out.
It's a great pick. Prime. Great pick, man. All right, number 15 for me is Ex Machina.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah. Love this movie. When I saw it, it got me real excited for Alex Garland. And I just love simple concept sci-fi films like this, and had a really good energy, I think, with Donald Gleason. Oscar Isaac did a great job. And then really just getting Alicia Vikander, I thought she was just incredible as this highly realistic looking robot, which still looks amazing to this day, and I'm still floored by how that's mostly green screen, like that's visual effects over her. It's insane. and for such a low budget film. So just wanted to give it some support. I think it's a great concept, great film. I'd love to see more sci-fi films like this. So yeah, Ex Machina.
Absolutely. It's a winner.
Hell yeah.
All right, my number 15 is The Handmaiden, which we've talked about.
Nice.
Park Chan-wook.
So far, the
Absolute
only
hero.
one that's made it on all of our lists.
Yeah, he's a king. The structure of that movie is incredible. And, yeah, I don't know. Y'all covered it. It's a banger.
It's a banger, man.
All right. My number 14, probably going to be on both your lists, so I don't need to dwell on it. Roma. It's a
Nice.
good one. It's pretty. It's I think it's just a tasty morsel, and don't know how this was like a film that people didn't like. It's kind of like a
Yeah, it's kind of mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
It feels so universal that it's like, how do you not like Roma, you know?
yeah. Even
Yeah.
if you don't like it or think it's slow, it's just pretty. Like yeah, love that movie. Feels like if someone made an old movie with modern values, just very good, very good.
Yeah. It's a great
That's it.
pick.
Yeah.
Great movie. All right. Number 14 for me is After the Storm.
Oh,
Nice.
interesting.
Yeah, great movie. I saw this at the year after it came out, which was, I'm trying to look it up here, 2016. So I think I saw it in like 2017. I didn't get to catch it for that year, so it didn't make my top 10, but it's one that I just fell in love with it. You know, I think Kurita's films are just, they have an energy to them that I just cannot describe, and I don't know how he does it. But it's so simple, yet so relaxing, and just, it makes you feel so good. I just want to live in those films forever. You know, like
Yeah.
the way he directs them are so wonderful. And yeah, I love all of his films so far. So yeah, After the Storm.
Hell yeah.
Cool.
All right, my number 14 is Kelly Reichardt's Meek's Cutoff.
Oh, just missed my list.
Oh yeah, interesting. Yeah, it's a great movie about people on the Oregon Trail. It's another one that is just like so meticulously executed, and it feels like everything is just so composed and in its proper place. It's also a very seemingly slow movie, but it's just because of that attention to detail, it just feels so tight. You know what I mean? And I think it's interesting to make something that's like that. It's a cool balance, and I think she usually strikes that. She's a great director.
Cool. All right. I have never heard of that film. Neek's Cutoff? Haven't heard of this.
Oh, you got to check it out. It's a banger, man.
We'll have to indeed. All right. All right, we're moving on. Moving on to number 13. Sean.
All right. Sorry. Zach left, so I don't know if you can hear me.
I can hear you. I'm just right here.
No, you can. I don't know if I'm on the mic because I'm muted.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Number 13 is little Terry Malick. Tree of Life.
Nice.
Yeah. This movie was probably, I feel like it was billed as the most important movie of the decade, and it came out, I think, the first year of the decade. Like,
Yeah.
It's just one of those movies that
Totally.
you knew walking into it was supposed to be this. You didn't know exactly what it was, but you knew it was this life-changing experience, and it felt like bigger than a movie. Yeah, it juxtaposes growing up in El Paso, Texas, with the creation of existence and like dinosaurs, and it's just I don't know. It feels like shockingly for men. Let's be real, universal in like a way of like growing up with brothers. Like anyone who had a brother even though I didn't grow up in El Paso, Texas, and didn't go into stuff and shoot BB, it just feels like that those feelings of discomfort you have trying to impress an older brother, or first time you see a criminal and you're scared of them, or just these weird moments that they hit on, or like the pressure to be like your dad, or how cool you think your mom is, like, because she's just so much nicer growing up, and it's just, there's certain things like that are just they're amazing, and just it's a little more than a movie, and I know that like his last few have felt like movies, so I don't really know how Tree of Life is done. I don't know how someone sets out to do it without being just pretentious, and I feel like he influenced cinematography for the decade more than almost any other filmmaker. But yeah, Tree of Life. Nice try, Terry. Didn't get number one, but yeah, that's it.
Nice. Yeah, man. Love that movie. My number... we on 13?
Yeah.
Yeah, 13. Patterson.
Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. Woo!
Trio of Patterson boys over here.
Yeah, like you guys, it was real close between this and Only Lovers. I really, really, really like Only Lovers Left Alive. I love that movie. But Patterson, I feel, just kind of edges over it just a bit, which tells you just how much I love this one. It's just another just like a pleasant film that I don't understand how it works. You know what I mean? So simple, so quiet. But you know, that's all you need in life sometimes, you know. That's what it's kind of about, just the small triumphs, the small defeats in daily life, having like going to walk your dog and having one beer a day and then going home and just being happy. Like, I don't know, there's just something really nice about that, and I feel like Jim Jarmusch really just nails all his sensibilities in that film. So and Adam Driver, he's incredible. So yeah, Patterson.
Hell yeah. We're on 13. Is Shoplifters.
Oh.
Nice.
Corriera. The win.
Speaking
He's
of
a hero. Yeah, he's a hero. It was definitely hard picking out one of his movies. I love them all.
Yeah, I know, me too.
a true hero indeed. Yeah. It's a winner.
It's a winner, man. It's a good pick. Yeah, I went.
Do you need more time? Are you swapping over there?
No, I'm not swapping. Sorry, I forgot what we were doing. My number 12 is
12. Wow. Yeah.
Marty Scorsese. Movie called Silence.
Ooh.
Just love it, and love movies about religion. Was very excited to see him tackle that. Certain things in that movie just I think about, like, I don't know why they just pop into my head, but like the part when they're talking about the Son of God, and then through translation they think that they're actually worshiping the sun, so they're dying for things that they don't even know. It's just certain things like that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I don't know, someone that's grown up in a religious household and always had an interest in it, and curiosity of how it affects people, and not to say like people are susceptible to it, but just how people respond to it. Just the power that it has. I feel like that movie does a really powerful job, and it doesn't wag a finger either way in a interesting way, and two people can leave it, atheist and a very devout religious person, and I think equally feel like that he betrayed the other side. I feel like there was a negative response because everyone thought that he was on the other side, but it's like everyone thought that, you know, so it's just, I think it's aged very well. I think I
think it'll continue to age really well.
It's only aged better. I've seen it a couple times. Adam Driver, probably the decade of Adam Driver, I'd say, for like if I had to pick a male star this decade, I think Adam Driver is probably the breakout star of the decade. And his work in Silence really blew me away. I'd say if you haven't seen Silence because you're worried about a close to 3 hour long movie about preaching religion in Japan. Don't check her out. Check her out.
Don't go see it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Silence is amazing.
It's so good.
Yeah.
All right, cool. My number 12 is Under the Skin.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah. This movie is just what a haunting film this was for me. Just the score, the imagery, the guts that Scarlett Johansson had to like reveal herself and to really embrace this part, and the ending just kind of is insane. So yeah, Under the Skin, what a great sci-fi film, and it's one again that has just like stuck with me, and one that I'm afraid I don't want it to go under the radar, so it worth mentioning for me. So
Totally.
Hell yeah.
yep. All right, Zach,
All
you're
right.
number 12.
My number 12 is The Revenant.
Nice.
It's an extremely visceral movie. Incredibly executed. Looks very hard to make. Looks very pretty also. A movie that I, on the cast, somehow gave a 4.5 and then thought, what the fuck am I thinking right now?
Who are you if not human? You know?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Inarritu is a great filmmaker, and yeah, The Revenant.
Cool.
Nice, man.
All right. Number 11 for me is this was one that the filmmaker for the each year rule really felt pinched for me that I set for myself.
Yeah.
Olivier Assayas was probably another one of my filmmakers for the decade. So, just because he puts out almost, I think, about a film a year, and every one of them I really respond to. But I would go with, just for the decade and who I was during the decade, I'd probably put Something in the Air. So this is one about young artists and their role in rebellion and protesting, and there's just like a cultural insight to it that you feel like you're watching like pseudo-intellectual French artists in the 60s, like, but not even the 60s, fight and rebel, and it's just really fun. Great score, soundtrack, beautiful movie. Love Olivier Assayas, and just, if anyone's not familiar with the filmmaker but really likes sort of to watch every year a very good movie at a film festival, check it out. But yeah, I'd say Clouds, Sils, Maria is another one.
I think I pinned you for a Sils Maria guy.
I think that just for me, Something in the Air is as far as this decade, like Clouds, Sils, Maria is one I'll watch for decades to come. But both of them ranked really high, and to be honest, I'd probably put both of them on my top 20 pretty easily. Also, Personal Shopper, Carlos. I blew off a midterm study session to watch a 4-hour-long chunk at the Music Box. Like, love that filmmaker, and yeah, Clouds, Sils, Maria, Something in the Air, number 11.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen Something in the Air, but I've seen Clouds of Sils Maria,
Nice.
and love that movie. So
it's killer.
I would probably like Something in the Air. Cool, good pick. All right, we're going to number 11 for me. I picked Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Nice.
Oh,
It's a fun
This is a movie like in a decade that is filled, almost bogged down with comic book movies. This one I feel it rises above them all and is the best. It and as someone who likes comic book movies, if you listen to this podcast, you know that I do. I think that this one is just the best out of all of them because it fully embraces the Spider-Man character and takes it into a new direction, one that's fresh, one that's exciting, and does it in an animation style and with a story that on paper should not work. Yet somehow this movie makes it work, and it's incredibly entertaining, so well made. It's kind of a miracle of an animation film.
It's really fresh. It's just like
It's
something
very fresh.
I like
Very
saw
fun.
a movie. It's like a rehashed. It's like a reboot of a hero that's been rebooted with a tie-in to of more of the hero going deeper into the universe, but somehow feels new.
Yeah.
When it's like so steeped in other things, it's pretty interesting combo.
And opening up this multiverse thing, like how is that ever going to work in a movie? But it makes it work.
Yeah.
And just a fantastic film, I think, overall, and one that's gonna really alter things for animation in future films. So yeah, man, I think it's a great one.
Hell yeah. All right, my number 11 now. Parasite.
Oh, whoa.
Oh, man.
Yeah, man. Love Parasite.
Ooh.
I've seen it
Great
3
movie.
times. I want to watch it again. Like it's rare for me for a movie to end. Like it ended and I was like, I would like put money on that I'm not going to see a better movie this year. You know what I mean? Like it's just a real winner all around. Yeah, I saw it. I tried to get people to see it actively for weeks and then saw it again. I don't know. I think that says something.
Yeah, man, big shout out to Parasite for winning Best Picture as well.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's insane. It's insane that it won. I was watching it live and totally didn't think it would win. I would hope it. In my opinion, it was the best movie that was up for Best Picture.
Yes,
And the fact that the best movie won was kind of crazy, and that it was a foreign language film, insane. But yeah, definitely a movie everyone should check out.
It's hard to put a movie from this year on the list, but
Hey,
Yeah.
it's like I don't know. I think about it all the time. And
It had such a big
You know what I
impact,
mean? Like,
dude. Had such a big impact, and the fact that it made history with the Best Picture and everything, I think it's a great pick.
yeah, it's a winner.
Okay, we're moving on to
Before
actually,
that,
we're already.
Wes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Hold on, dude. Everyone's clamoring to hear this special offer.
Look, I'm chomping at the bit.
I just want to say, before we get into it, if you have a sec, I want to discuss a special deal.
What
For
is
the
it?
listeners to the Listen to This Rant About Movies podcast. Audible, do you know them, Sean? Have you heard about them before?
I mean, I've wanted to try them, but I haven't been offered any sort of download. So
Well, they're offering a free audiobook download.
on Audible?
Yeah, with a 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So to get your free audiobook, go to audibletrial.com/LTURAM.
Oh my god, there's so many to choose from. Do you have a specific book to recommend, Zach?
No, they're all good.
The Bible.
Yeah. So if just go on now and sign up while we're doing this here.
Yeah.
We'll sign it.
Oh.
Rashawn's signing up live on the air.
Okay, I'm on. I'm
what
doing
book
it.
are you gonna get?
Free audiobook, dude.
Okay, I'm probably gonna get. Let's see. Hold on. All right, I just bought a copy of The Tree of Life. I did.
The novelization?
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Hey, you're welcome. And you too could get a free audiobook download by going to audibletrial.com/LTURAM.
Just go on.
And
dude.
that's we're gonna bring it to our number 10s. I think in these we could talk a little bit more if we want to. We can
Yeah.
let these breathe. Now we're getting the top 10. These are obviously a little more
Getting hot
influential
and
to
heavy
us.
now,
Okay.
getting hot and heavy.
Yeah,
Alright.
exactly. Now it's a little important.
Look,
So
I know we can talk, but I don't want to steal Zacky's thunder. So I think
I know what you're gonna say.
no, I don't think you do. My number 10 is A Pigeon Sits on a Branch, Reflecting on Existence. Roy Anderson is a champion. Love the framing. Love the dog barking. And all around just a killer film. And it's one of those films that it's either for you or not. But if it's for you, it's like
It's right in that-
fucking
right in
6
that
out of
zone,
5
you know?
main vein. Like you're just freebasing Roy Anderson. So I'd say if maybe check it out, and if you're feeling it, then he's got several movies that are exactly like that didn't come out this decade.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a new
Just-
movie, and They're gonna come out this year, and
Fucking dying to see that
it's
shit.
already save
man.
a nice spot in the top 5.
Yeah, exactly. Got a nice little bed made for about endlessness that I'll just sneak right in at the end of the year.
Yeah. So number 10. That's the movie.
Hell yeah.
Good pick, man. That's a great one. I can't wait
pick.
for his new film. Yeah, and we might see that again with Zach's list. I feel like I don't know. Maybe.
Who's to say? You know?
All right.
Huh?
What's that?
Nothing.
Oh, I didn't. Sorry, my headphone died.
Oh. Do you need an adapter?
I swapped it. We're good.
Oh, okay. All right.
My number 10 is Mad Max Fury Road.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a great freaking movie, man. I think that's like one of the best action films definitely have been made in this decade. 2010's Mad Max, absolutely crazy. They really built these rigs out in the desert. They really shot it. And it definitely had a huge cultural impact. And I think, it's one that definitely has stuck with me. It's a movie that's definitely rewatchable, one you can pop in anytime. And when you look back, you're going to be like, oh, that's a big highlight from the 2010s, I feel like. So, yeah, I made it to the top 10. Mad Max for me.
Hell yeah.
Great pick.
Solid.
Might be my number 27 of the decade.
God damn. My number 10 is Marty Scorsese's Silence.
Oh, buddy.
Just gets better every time I watch it. Something that I feel like will continue to get better. Just definition of a fine wine.
Absolutely.
Movie. And I feel like
put this baby in a nice, dry, even temperatured spot.
Yeah. We're gonna put it. We're gonna take it. We're gonna put it in a nice closet in the basement.
No sunlight.
No sunlight. We're gonna watch it once every 2 years. We'll bust it out on a special occasion, and then But yeah, I don't know. You covered it pretty well. It's just one that sticks with me a lot, and that when I think about, I'll find myself just sitting there thinking about for a really long time. Just extremely affecting, and I love the way that it executed the material that it was handling, and it was done in a really good way. Like what you were saying about everyone thinking that it's working against, but really it's just standing in the middle somewhere and questioning, and I don't know, very impactful. Looks incredible. Baby, that cinematography and those performances just
it feels like a movie. It feels like a movie that wouldn't have come out of the 2010s. You know what I mean?
It feels weirdly timeless in that way. Like when I saw it, I was like, "Oh, I haven't seen this." It's like, yeah, well, it just came out. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I think a lot of these in the top 10 have that sort of timeless feel, and I think that's going to be telling.
Yeah. For sure.
Cool, man.
All right, Shawnee, number 9, bud.
Number
All
9.
right.
Is it getting tough? You scooting around over there? Or
I've scooted, but I haven't made a big deal of it.
Okay.
My number 9 is a movie.
Interesting.
From
it's a movie.
What year to come out? 2012. It's called Paradise Love.
Ooh,
and I love this movie. It's part of a 3-film series: Paradise Faith, Paradise Hope, and Paradise Love. I put this one because I had to pick one. And basically, this one. Let me pull up. I pulled up the IMDb description because I was looking at the movie the other week, and I just think that the IMDb description is very funny. So it's Teresa, a 52-year-old Australian mother, travels to the paradise of the beaches of Kenya, seeking out love from African boys. But she must confront the hard truth that on the beaches of Kenya, love is a business. And it's just a great film. This same director has come up a couple times in end of the year lists. He's kind of a notorious documentarian of kind of bold and confrontive documentaries, and he took that style and just polished it a bit for narrative. And there's a real truth to the movie. There's a lot of documentary aspects. Definitely watched this when I was still going to film school and tried to rip it off 100 different ways.
Oh, absolutely.
Very influential. Love the movie. Ulrich Siddell. Common trend of this podcast is I pronounce every name gruesomely wrong, but champion filmmaker. And yeah, I would say that if anyone has a passing interest, I think this is on the Criterion channel now. I know it's kind of floating, but yeah, I would say that if you are interested in sort of travelogue / documentary films, that are, he did this documentary Safari that Zach and I raved about a couple years ago. But yeah, this film, I it's kind of stranger than fiction, but also fiction in a great way. And
it's a killer movie.
I'd recommend watching all three, and they all tackle complex things like dating after 50, religion that splits a marriage, and childhood obesity and feeling alienated. And it does it all in a way that is like darkly comedic but never condescending, and I think that's really hard to do, and it's very European in a successful way. And yeah, I would say I saw this movie and was blown away. Paradise Love, number 9.
Nice.
Where's that crit box though? Where's that nice trilogy Criterion Blu-ray?
Yeah, let me just use this platform that I have right now to just contact Criterion directly and say, look, I know you're listening, Criterion.
Look, I know I could watch this movie whenever I want because I'm a subscriber to your service.
Absolutely.
But can I buy it for $45, please?
Can I buy it for half price at a Barnes & Noble sale? Thank you, Criterion. And also just Women in Love, great box art. Thanks for Criterion.
It is great box art. You picked that up?
Yeah.
Oh, just checking.
We bought it together.
Huh?
We bought it together.
Oh. Sorry, I forgot.
All right, Wes.
All right, my number 9 is my computer is being slow
Did you watch
here.
it yet?
Mm-hmm.
My number 9 is one that's going to be a lot higher than probably most people consider it. I think especially for you guys, but it's a movie that I just love, and I've seen many times since it came out. That's Arrival.
Oh,
nice. Yeah, you're an Arrival. You're a space boy.
I'm a space boy. I'm a Arrival boy, and I love Denis Villeneuve. I think he's amazing. I love his work, and he's got just like a really great eye, and I love the visuals in this movie. I love that it didn't. It could have gone way over the deep end, and could have easily been really bad in my opinion. But I think in the hands of Denis Villeneuve, he crafted it into a just a very cinematic, nice film that had blockbuster themes, but kind of came across in a much more unique kind of artistic way. Like I said, I don't think anyone else could have done it like this. It also has a score by one of my favorite composers who's now passed, Johan Johansson, and
great score.
Just a really affecting film in many ways, and one that has lasted and feel like it lasted through the decade for me. So yeah, Arrival.
Nice.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
My number 9 is Cemetery of Splendor.
You love this movie.
This is one that really, really blew me away when I watched it. I remember I was like catching up before the end of the year cast one year. I think it was like 2016 maybe it came out. And just was fucking floored by this goddamn thing. It's just really interesting. I think there's a authenticity to it and an earnestness that's really good, but it's also really out there. It's paced really slowly, but in a meditative way where it's never boring, but it has like a nice flow to it. I think the sort of way that they handle some of the surreal or magical elements is extremely interesting, and some of the best I've seen kind of handling that material. It's kind of like flatly stated, but in that way it kind of makes it more interesting and magical, which is something I don't know, it kind of comes back to the sort of like minimalism thing, and just growing to appreciate that a lot, and just being so restrained and focused while seeming so broad is something that I just found very affecting. Killer movie.
Well, cool.
Love him. Will not try to pronounce his name because it will absolutely be butchered. Check him out. He's a hero.
All right, man. We are
What?
moving to
What?
number.
No, I don't know how to pronounce that guy's name either.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not
Champion though,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolute champion.
Some
Alright,
could say Uncle Boonmay in the top 30 of the decade. Cool. So what are we on, number 8?
Yeah.
Number 8.
Number 8 asked a question that I'm still trying to answer to this day. Who is the master? You know? The master, Paul Thomas Anderson, he's a filmmaker out of LA and does a lot of LA movies. This one was probably one of the best theatrical experiences I had of the decade. I'd say saw it with my good bud Zach. I think you were there, and we saw it like really early on a whim, and it was like one that like at the time Joaquin Phoenix is crazy, seeing as we're like 4 days away from him winning Best Actor, but he had quit acting, which is crazy to think about, like this decade, and he ended up quitting acting as a publicity stunt to make a very controversial documentary now called "I'm Still Here." But
and he just
once
won,
that sham was up,
just won an Oscar for best
made
actor.
The Master. Yeah. And basically The Master, I remember walking out of that movie, turning to my good buddy Zach and saying like, that feels like I just watched a classic for the first time. And it really has that feel. There's a certain very like novel approach, not in the sense of like clever, but just it feels like it's a book adaptation that never was. Love the film. It was the first time that I saw like a 70mm movie before like pristine print, and it was very exciting. It was very cool. Like having seen like older films in that same format, like now that also started a trend. I feel like I think it started with The Master, and then now all the Nolan and even like Quentin Tarantino. It's been very big this decade, but like I'd seen 2001, but like it's like seeing it in the same, like it was shot in the same format as 2001. Like it was fucking crazy. Like so it's it's one of those movies that I think I saw it 3 times in theaters. Like I saw it, and then I went with my then girlfriend, and then we went back and saw it again when it was in 70mm again at the Music Box. And I remember taking it to like friend's house of Karen and mine's, and we're like, you have to watch this movie. And like they didn't really like it that much, but it was like it's like one of those things where you're just like so excited to show people this thing, and then you realize it's like a guy like jerking off in a corner by coconuts, and you're like, oh, what am I like? Obviously now I think even with Philip Seymour Hoffman dying, it's like his last iconic role. The scenes between the two of them, it's just incredible movie. You look at Amy Adams, was it like Laura Dern, like it's one of those movies that I feel like also says a lot about the decade. And if someone's talking about the decade in film, and you think of even like that was the first score of Johnny Greenwood that for this decade.
Yeah. For this decade.
Like he had done There Will Be Blood and it almost seemed like a fluke, and then this one came out and it was even like cooler. I thought like so. Yeah, just
it's an incredible score.
I'm not like a Paul Thomas Anderson super fan, but just kind of blew the old gourd. It was a good one. Check it out.
It's a good pick, man. That's a movie I wish I'd seen in 70mm. That probably would have been incredible.
It was nice.
Yeah, man. Great movie.
It's killer.
Hell yeah.
Oh, and I think I was talking over you, so I don't know if you heard me, but
sorry. I took out my headphones still.
My bad.
Go ahead.
I was talking over you anyway, but we were talking about Joaquin Phoenix, and kind of crazy to see his path through this decade, and then ending it on this note of he just won Best Actor, like he won that Oscar.
Yeah.
And went from a time where we thought he was quitting, and then he like completely ruined his career, you thought, with this documentary that he did, mockumentary, whatever. And just to see that whole path of his career is very interesting.
It's insane. Like he's had at least 5 incredible roles this year or this decade.
Yeah, for sure.
So impressive. I think Adam Driver, because he came out of nowhere this decade, but like I think probably Joaquin Phoenix as an established actor, probably the best decade.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
See if it's on either of your guys' list. I don't know.
We'll see.
My number 9. That's what we're on, right?
Number 8.
Number 8.
Oh, number 8. Yeah.
Hope I didn't do that wrong.
Is Ad Astra.
Ooh, nice.
Hell yeah, man.
Ad Astra
this-
fucking rules.
Ad Astra, fucking so underrated.
Yeah, seriously.
It is, man. Listen, this was my favorite movie of 2019. I had to throw it in there somewhere.
Absolutely.
I think it's just and this is probably the one I might have seen the most. I bought the 4K Blu-ray, rewatched it recently, so maybe that's why it's also kind of in my mind. But yeah, what a just crazy movie. I think one that
So good.
is going to have a real big lasting impact, I think, going forward. One that's really underrated, which, a lot of movies that become relevant later, or movies that last, or at the time, they're underappreciated at the time, and I think this is one that sort of will fall in that category of one that's sort of overlooked maybe for this year, but we'll look. I would say maybe 10 years from now we'll look back and be like, man, this movie had some great concepts.
I think I would give it the Fine Wine Award of last year. It'll age like a fine wine,
Yeah, I think so too. And just an absolutely incredible performance by Brad Pitt. I think he's also quite a treasure from this decade, especially within the last couple of years. So, yeah, man, Ad Astra.
Hell yeah! All right, my number 8, Anna Rose Holmer's The Fits.
It's a good pick, man.
It's a great movie. It's one that really took me by surprise. I watched it with you, and you had already seen it, right? You watched it again with me to show me it. And just a fucking killer independent movie that I do think that it was overlooked when it came out, and I've seen things attempt the same or flat out rip it off recently in a big way, and like things that are very notable, and I don't think it got the credit it deserves, because I think it I
agree.
Just beautiful execution, really great concept for something that's so small but seemingly like universal in a way, and killer. Love it. Excited to see
movie.
Make another movie.
Doing something else. Yeah, what's going on here?
I know. Come on.
Get it going, Anna. Jeez.
She did a really good music video. This is just to keep it on track. She did a really cool music video for fuck. I even saw this guy in concert. James Blake. And
she did James Blake.
She did a James Blake music video with Natalie Portman when she's like 8.5 months pregnant. And so it's like right before she gives birth, and it's like a lot of shots of Natalie Portman's stomach and the baby's hand pressing out, like when you see it kicking, but it's like actually you see it kicking.
Jesus,
it's really cool. So I'd say if you like The Fits and you like Natalie Portman's pregnant belly, you gotta check out this video.
Sounds like it's made for me.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's two things I know about you, it's that you love Natalie Portman's pregnant belly.
Yeah.
Cool. Sweet.
All right, man. 20.
All right.
Number 7.
So what I'll say real quick, nice little qualifier.
Ooh, okay.
My top 7, which is very high, almost any of them could be interchanged. I've swapped these all. So I'm allowed to say it.
This is
fair.
Fuck!
That's
no,
that's fair.
fucking guy over here.
Guys, spike it level. So like literally, it's like literally a thing where I've swapped them 3 times. I'll probably swap them 3 more times. Number 7, little Johnny Glazer, Under the Skin.
Nice.
Under the Skin, just
I was hoping it'd be on someone else's
iconic
list.
Movie.
Feels
like I was saying with The Master, and really every movie from now on this list for me, it feels like just bigger than a movie in some really cool way. Under the Skin, I saw it in theaters. There were like 4 people in the theater, and it was like opening weekend. It was just like it. Immediately, you're like, oh, no one is appreciating this at this time. But very great film. Watched it probably 4 times since. Every time I've gotten a new appreciation. there's things I still think about sometimes when I'm just like feeling uncomfortable. I have like a weird flash of the baby on the beach by itself, like
Yeah.
just like it triggers like a sense memory. Yeah, and then like when I think about striking images, I think of this movie. When I think of how to build a montage, I think of this movie. When I think of character changing tone or evolving, I think of this movie. So there's just certain things that from a craft perspective, obviously the person, I don't think it's coincidence, the person that's done the score to this movie has gone on to create just like several more iconic scores. And yeah, I would say that Under the Skin, just a real banger.
A true banger.
Scarlett Johansson, wasn't a huge Scarlett Johansson fan, but I feel like this movie is like a forever movie in the sense that like no matter what Scarlett Johansson does, I'm just like, yeah, but Under the Skin.
She did that. She did that movie.
Yeah, like
She did that, man.
She can do probably 25. I think she played Black Widow in 25, going on 26 different movies. And it's still just like simultaneously she did Under the Skin. Like it's crazy to me.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I think Under the Skin.
She's one of the most, I think it was like on Letterboxd, so she's like the most watched actress, probably because of all the Marvel movies, but still, I think she's been in so much work in the last decade, especially. Like, it's kind of crazy that she also did some low budget stuff too, and
absolutely,
I love it.
You look at the last year she had.
Yeah,
she was in Avengers Endgame, in addition to Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah,
like that's quite
crazy.
She was nominated for, not that like I'm gonna super awards, but she was nominated for Best Actress, Best Supporting Actress, and was the lead female in the highest grossing movie of the year.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so Scarlett Johansson doing pretty good. Yeah, so Under the Skin, number 7, best movie of the decade.
All right, my number 7 is Paul Schrader's First Reformed.
Nice.
A movie that has just, it blew my mind when I watched it. I think it's just absolutely amazing. I think it's Ethan Hawke's best performance. And talk about another like timeless movie. I feel like it's just it's insane. It's insane what this movie does, and I just really appreciate the direction and kind of it also kind of encapsulates some of our anxieties, I think, with this decade, especially going into the 2020s, is global warming, climate change, stuff like that. It has a lot to say with that, and I've heard some people think it's like kind of in your face, but I think it's something that like it's relevant to be said, and in a way that's like this too. I think it has a really pressing message, and it tells it in a very compelling way by linking it to something that's very old thinking, such as like religion and something like that. So, I just found that fascinating. I found the direction fascinating. I think cinematography is awesome, and movie I'll never forget. So yeah, First Reformed.
Fuck yeah!
I've been really craving a rewatch on that bad boy. I'm trying to get people in on it. I'm like, First Reformed, throwing it out there. No one's biting.
It's about time for a rewatch.
You haven't rewatched it?
No. I was waiting for Cass, and then I was waiting for John. It's like, I haven't rewatched it yet.
You need to cut the dead weight.
All right, number. What number are we at? 7?
7.
Number 1, dude.
Huh?
Number 1.
Yeah. All right, my number 7 is Roma.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, love Roma. So affected by it, like so much going on in that. Just remember it ending, looking over, everyone's crying. but I also just really appreciate the way they went about creating it, and I think visually it's very interesting, and especially for him too, kind of coming off of his style that he had been kind of riding on for a while. It was definitely something different, and I think more aligned with what just I kind of prefer, I guess, which was a nice, nice to see. It's just really big feeling and immersive, but such a small story, and extracting that scale out of something like so kind of small, I think, is like the whole reason it has so much power. And it's one that I don't think I'll forget about anytime soon.
Yeah,
it's a real winner.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Hey, that's cool, man.
Hey, man, that's cool, man.
It's really cool. Great pick, man.
Yeah.
Okay, grab one of those.
All right.
Yeah.
Do you need one?
No, I'm good. All right. Zach's just grabbing a beer.
We'll wait.
Yeah. I left my phone over there. All right. Oh yeah, you did leave your phone. All right. Number 6, greatest movie of the decade.
No pressure.
Was made last decade, and then took 5 years to come out.
Oh, here it is, baby!
Because of producers trying to cut the movie.
I can see this thing coming.
We're talking Marguerite, Kenny Lonergan.
Honestly, surprised it's not your number 1, dude. The narrative on Marguerite was building.
You can pin me down in a narrative, but the truth is, you can't pin me down. Marguerite, incredible movie. There's 2 cuts of this movie. One that's 2.5 hours. One that's 3:10. You gotta watch the 3:10 cut. It's the director's cut. You can watch it on Prime. This thing's $4. Look, my name is Sean-Pierce 5 on Venmo. All the fans, hit me up. Request $5 for Marguerite director's cut. I'll send it to you. I'll Venmo it to you. I'm unemployed. I will send you $5. And
I might take you up on this.
yeah, Zach's already sent me money. I'm literally floating this guy, and and it's just an incredible movie. It's kind of an odyssey. It stars Anna Paquin from The Irishman, and basically it's just
from Irish.
It's just a high school student she witnesses a murder that she kind of caused a little bit, to not spoil anything, just kind of through a bit of distraction. She causes a murder, and then, like most high school things, they appropriate things and take on the guilt of others in some misguided way that's entirely selfish, and it just shows this spiral. I fucking love this movie. As someone that lived on the East Coast for a brief period of time, it makes me feel that time. Like there's this sort of New York post 9/11 thing that, like, there was just like an uncomfortableness that, like, is just everyone kind of felt in a weird way, where like everyone was still angry and they were, like, I don't know, on edge, and I still think about it all the time. It's basically like, what if Finding Forrester was incredible, like in terms of certain things in Finding Forrester. I don't know. It's just an amazing movie. Check it out. Watch the director's cut. Sean-Pierce 5 on Venmo. Send me some requests. $5. I'll send it your way. Just give me some time to reshuffle some transfer some funds, cash some bonds. But yeah, let's do it. Number 6 of the generation, Marguerite.
Generation. Nice. All right, my number 6 is Parasite.
Nice.
Boom,
baby. Number 6.
Boom. Yeah. We talked about this movie already, but it's just kind of, I think, too, some of the news that came out of the Academy Awards, and just like it's kind of crazy how much attention it's gotten.
Yeah.
And I think it deserves it too, deservedly so, because it's absolutely incredible. I can't wait to watch it again, and it's one that's going to stand. It's going to be considered one of the best of the decade, and one that I think is deserved of that because of its impact, and just the sheer audacity it had to tackle this story in the way that it did.
and I think it's probably Bong Joon-ho's best film,
I would agree.
and it's really going to propel him going forward. So in that way, it's also very exciting to see what he can do next, as he's going to have a lot more influence going forward. And will this movie change the course of cinema in the 2020s? Like, this is kind of crazy. This is crazy that this movie has won Best Picture. So can't get over that. And I think it's just, incredible movie. Probably the best of 2019. Probably should have been my number one. But yeah, Parasite.
Be true to yourself.
Yeah, man. Do you feel the tides change? They're changing, bud. All right. Oh yeah, it's me. Shit.
Zach's like, hurry up, dude.
My number 6 is Terry Malick's Tree of Life.
Oh,
Nice.
Another, like you were saying, I don't know, it felt like such an event when it came out and such a big deal, and it was another one where it's just kind of like feels like it was always around. It's just like kind of instantly timeless.
I think I saw it with you, Zach.
Yeah, we did at the Inzion.
Inzion, yeah.
nice.
It's
cool.
Yeah.
Look at how much.
I remember there was it was the longest line I've seen there too. It was like wiggled out the door. It was wild. But yeah, I think there's just a way that they sort of capture moments in it that's so undescribable, and that I think is really special. That you can have these kind of unexplainable feelings translated visually is like, I don't even know how one does that. So
right.
For me, I think that's a major factor in the fact that the tone it creates, it feels like a memory somehow. And they're like constructing these false memories that feel so accurate that I myself have never experienced, you know what I mean? But feel universal in this strange way. Right. And, yeah, I just think it's an extremely impressive movie, and I think it'll keep being one and, stay relevant for a long while there.
Oh, wow. Cool, man.
Heck yeah.
Good pick.
Heck yeah, dude.
All right,
Cool.
we're at top 5 now.
Top 5
Woo!
of
You
the
sweating,
decade.
bud? You sweating, Sean?
2010 to 2019. What was the 5th best movie of the decade? Well, I'll tell you what it was.
What was it?
It was Hidekazu Koreeda's Like Father, Like Son.
Ooh, switching it up. Interesting.
So this movie, I love all his movies. For me, he would be my favorite filmmaker of the decade, in terms of just their output for the decade.
Yeah.
Is for film, and it just blew me away. With so many times over, anything from Air Doll, Like Father, Like Son.
Well, that was last decade.
Well, it came out in America in 2010, and then
It's just decade.
just a lot of
it was
lot of
2008.
films. Yeah, even like the Third Murder,
2 years.
just crushing it all. But Like Father, Like Son, this movie, I think about it, I just get so sad. It's just so good. I'm not a father, not yet. Fingers, I don't think so. And basically, it's about raising a child and then realizing when your child's roughly 8 years old that you had the wrong child since birth, and you now have to switch with a family that's raised an entire economic situation. So it's basically you realize that you not only let down your birth child, but you have been steering the development of a child that's not even your own. So how you deal with that, it's kind of mind-blowing. It's as someone that's not a father, I felt like I understood the burden of a father in a movie in a way that I've never ever felt before. There's just such an intense emotional response. I rewatched it like 2 years ago, liking it the first time, and was just like crying constantly in like a very weird way.
Intense.
I think it might not be his best film, I don't really know, but like as far as I feel like what he's so good at is just finding these like emotional truths. I know that like After the Storm and Shoplifters were on both your lists in different places. This to me is just the one that when I think about this decade, if I had to pick one film that I'm happy if his exists for me personally, it's Like Father, Like Son.
I pegged you for an After the Storm boy.
Yeah, and I
He's
think
hyping up
I,
After
I
the
think
Storm.
I think
It's a great
that's
movie.
a great movie, but as far as emotional impact,
Yeah.
because it's just I don't know. Like I love all
Yeah,
his films
man,
for
it's
different
fine.
reasons, and
It's your list,
like
bud.
Father, like Son, just like it makes me just like feel so emotional in the way that like
Yeah.
no other film does. So I
Mhm.
would say that for the way it plays my heart fiddle, like Father, like Son.
Hell yeah.
Nice. That's one I haven't seen, and well, if I like his
guys.
other movies, I'll probably like that one. So
Gotta check it out.
yeah, sounds real good. Love it. All right, my number 5 is Mother.
Oh,
Oh shit!
Darren
Blowing it
Aronofsky's
up!
film. Probably a movie looking back. It's like probably one of the most pretentious titles I think you can make. Lowercase Mother
Yeah.
exclamation mark. It's an amazing movie, and I think it's
so good.
It's killer.
I think it's pretty much a masterwork of especially Aronofsky's work, and
Mhm.
and it's a movie that it's just like I can't believe this movie freaking exists. You know, like
Yeah, it's insane.
it's insane, and that it was like a large budget studio film. It's like we might not ever see something like this ever again. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
Jennifer Lawrence in her prime.
Yeah.
In her prime, Javier Bardem, a big release, big theater release, a movie, art house film, and something that got a lot of people saw this movie, and probably most mainstream people didn't like it, but it's probably because it was just way over the heads. They never have seen a film, I think, of this kind of caliber before, but it's such a good movie, and I've seen it a few times since its release, and every time I'm like, yeah, it's amazing. Like it's incredibly, it's insane that it's the kind of movie that you watch and you're like, I like movies, like I can't
Yeah.
believe that this can be made. Like, it makes me want to make something, and I can't believe like a movie can be made like this. This is incredible art.
Yeah.
And I find that just absolutely fascinating, and I can keep going on and on, but yeah, Mother, I think, amazing movie, 5 stars all the way.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. My wife organized a little viewing party a couple weeks ago at Zach's house, which is
Yeah.
funny. But Zach, myself, my wife, a couple of friends who had never seen it before, all
Mhm.
sat down and watched it, and fucking thing holds up. It's a banger.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, it's a killer movie. That 4K looking pretty.
Oh yeah, I got the 4K too. It looks great.
Oh,
Yeah, baby. Maybe it's only 2K.
Well, 2K price is fine.
Awesome. All right.
All right. Well, my number 5 is Roy Anderson's A Pigeon Sitting on a Branch Reflecting on Existence.
Nice. There it is. There it is.
Love Roy Anderson, one of my favorite filmmakers. Absolutely love this movie. Like you said, it's him. It's like unmistakably him. Just some of the way that these concepts are delivered, they're so zany and goofy, and it's played in such a way. I don't know. I just find it very unique, and the attention to detail is like staggering. It hits this strange tone between like so bleakly real and sort of fantastic that I think is really interesting, and you can just tell all the care that went into everything, and honestly the time as well. Like everything is just so perfect.
Yeah.
All
of it's on sets that are built.
Yeah,
insane.
it's like meticulously constructed sets, and everything's at the perfect angle, and it's so assured and confident in its direction that
Yeah, it's master.
he's absolute hero, top tier boy, top tier.
Number 4.
Fowler.
My number 4. Best movie of the decade. It's gonna be The Fits.
Nice.
Great movie. Don't have much to say. Zach said a lot of good things about it. What I'd say is just I feel like I always wanted a movie like this and never knew what exactly it was, and then you kind of see it and you're like, oh, that's what I wanted. It's like it's short, it's digestible, it's experimental, but says a lot. Passionately love things about it. It feels like all the performances were done by non-actors that are masters at non-acting.
Yeah.
Like it's also deceptively so hard to get correct what it does. I don't know. I love the movie. It's inspiring, and it feels like an accomplishment, and those are my favorite kind of movies. So the Fits, I've recommended it to a lot of people. Everyone's seemingly thought it was at least okay. You guys can pay for it yourself. No Venmo handouts, but
Wow, no Venmo handouts for number 4, but Venmo handouts for what? Number 9?
I feel like Marguerite's a harder sell. I don't know. I could be wrong,
I don't know.
but
You could fit 2 Fits in one Marguerite.
that's a
Potentially 3.
interesting way to say it. But yeah, I don't know if anyone's ever wanted to watch like a musical / dance coming of age story that isn't any of those things. Check out The Fist. It's a great movie. It's the 4th best movie of the decade according to some really reputable sources.
It's a great pick. Amazing film. No one else is amazing, I think. My number 4 is The Revenant.
Oh, nice. Rev
This
that
movie-
engine, baby.
Woo! This movie was clearly very difficult to make, and I think it was part of. There's like I think sort of with like, Star Wars Force Awakens was like the big, probably most well-known version of something that was people going back to real sets. People doing things in real locations, going to extreme locations and doing crazy filmmaking. And this is kind of around that time. And I think this movie was obviously very difficult to make. And from a filmmaking standpoint, and we understand this, is like you can see that on the screen. And I think that there is such a value in that because it really shows on the screen. And especially if you are required to give such nuanced performances and really sacrifice yourselves in those conditions just for entertainment is insane. That's like a minor thing I'd probably have to say about the movie, but it's I think a very large portion of why maybe it stands in my mind. I think the filmmaking itself is just amazing, and the cinematography, they barely used any artificial light, and it's all natural light, which is insane that we can do that nowadays. And the digital cameras that we can do, this is the start of a new era in a way. And just Leonardo DiCaprio, probably another one of the bigger actors of the decade. Tom Hardy, and just the director Alejandro Inarritu. Such an amazing impact that I feel like this movie made, and it absolutely blew my mind when I watched it. And I'm kind of rambling now, but I don't know. It's a movie that I've seen many times since its release in 2015, and I love it. It's a good movie.
Hell yeah. It's a banger, bro.
Banger.
That was on my top 20 of the decade until like right before we started, so it's a great one.
Hey man, a great film, man.
Spoilers, dude. Maybe I thought it was in your top 3.
Well, I guess he's gonna mention it later. So.
The people that talk about Leo being doing nothing but grunting in that movie, it's fucking
what
insane.
The fuck are you talking about?
What are you talking
He's so
about?
good in that movie.
I haven't heard this complaint.
There was like a lot of backlash to winning the Oscar.
He just grunts?
Yeah, it's just like
Fuck
cold.
off.
It's bullshit.
That's bullshit.
Oh my God.
Those wide
shit.
shots, and then like the action going around, the panning wide shots of just like arrows being thrown and
oh my God, people on horses, it's insane.
battles.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Fucking.
Fuck off, people who said that. All right.
right.
My number 4 is Dogtooth.
Nice. Very nice.
This was my first introduction to Yorgos Lanthimos, but I know he's made a couple movies before. But I was very affected by it when I saw it. It felt so fresh and different, and that style I love, and I love his visual and directing style still. He's one of my favorite filmmakers that's working. I really look forward to everything he puts out. I think it's really interesting the way it's done, and I think Dogtooth is the one that had affected me most out of his movies. Conceptually, it's just such a crazy idea that's like played out to all these very practical extremes, which I think is kind of in line with the rest of his filmography, at least. But I don't know, that was the one that hit the hardest for me, and I think it just came at the right time when I was like in film school, and I think it just really shaped what was almost possible in a way, you know. Like, wow, this is like going on right now. This is crazy.
Yeah,
I agree completely. I think that's probably the biggest Yorgos film that's made the biggest impact on me. Was Dogtooth.
Love it.
Yeah, good pick.
Love the tooth.
Love it.
All right, Shawnee.
well,
Number 3.
a little shaken right now.
Why is that?
I looked up Dogtooth,
Yeah.
assuming it's 2009 film, but I guess it came out theatrically in 2010. So
It did.
let's just actually I'm gonna go because this
Yeah.
list is now null and void. But
That's why I said before there might be one that's slightly controversial, but it
It's
was
fine.
a 2010 U.S.
it's
release.
fine. It's fine.
I would.
It's,
I think. Yeah.
It was late
fair.
November premiere in Greece.
you know,
It's a
released
20.
theatrically. It doesn't matter. I would agree. It's 2010. Is it listed on IMDb as 2009? Of course it is. But
Did you just bring up Air Doll as an example of something from this decade?
Yeah.
You did.
it's devastating.
Why? Because you would have put it on your list.
It would have been on there. But guess this is a good segue to my number 3 piece of shit movie of the decade. My number 3 movie of the decade is a movie that made me believe in magic once again. It's Magic Mike.
God damn it! Wait, not Double XL?
No, it's not Double XL.
You're fucked, bud. What are you even talking
Magic
about?
Mike is where it's at.
You told me that Double XL was better than Magic Mike.
No, it's fun.
There's
I
no
said it's fun.
way.
I had more fun watching XL. You see this guy trying to control my narrative?
I am.
How dare
Don't
you?
stifle my
I'm
truth.
taking the wheel, bud. You're steering us right.
Let Jesus take the wheel.
I love
okay?
Magic Mike. I'm not
All right.
dissing Magic
Yeah,
Mike. It's a great pick.
You love it? It's my number 3 of the decade, brother. So yeah, Magic
God damn it.
Mike, before Zach kind of scared me when he trounced on me. He just gets so angry. But Magic Mike is the story of Channing Tatum as Mike, the lovable stripper / handyman / designer of really unique furniture, and just the story of a ragtag group of strippers who just want to have fun while making money, and maybe one day will go to the big leagues of male stripping. But Steven Soderbergh, he's a champion. Love that guy. This is my favorite one of his films from this decade. I would say that it's very fun, but there's a lot of things behind it. There's a lot behind it, and I love the thought of a Trojan Horse movie, and to make a movie about male strippers, and it's actually a lot about economics and the struggles of a cash-only business is just amazing. And you're like rooting for the stripper to have like a successful furniture building company, and you're like impressed with his work ethic. I don't know, it's just like, it's a movie that's, I think, very underrated, very miscategorized, and let's see here, it's one of just one of the greatest stories about America in this generation. And the sequel, XL, while fun, is it takes out some of the bite of Magic Mike, and also introduce the world to Channing Tatum, and brought back Steve Nash in a big way. So, I know Wes, the beloved co-host of the podcast, is Florida boy, and this movie makes Florida look really cool. So,
That's hard to do. That's hard to do.
Absolutely. You're wearing a Tampa Bay shirt right now, and I'm like, Tampa, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, Magic Mike, the third best movie of the decade.
So my number 3 is Silence.
Oh,
Nice. Whoa, busting out a number 3 on Silence. Oh, yeah. Hell yeah, man.
Skezzy. Oh yeah. If I have to say like a movie from my list that is completely just timeless, and I feel like doesn't even exist in this decade, I would say it would be Silence, and I think it's absolutely amazing that Martin Scorsese was able to make this movie. I know that he tried for years and years, and I'm so happy that he finally did. It's such a amazing epic film, and I think it's amazing that it exists, and I think it's really gone under the radar too. I feel like it came out at a weird time. It was like the end of the year, and then sort of early. It came out like late 2016, early 2017, but and it was one that I didn't when I watched. I didn't catch it on my top 10, but as you guys know, I re-edited my list and I made it to my number 1. And yeah, Andrew Garfield, Adam Driver, Liam Neeson, absolutely amazing in this movie. I like, as you said too, Sean, movies about religion, and in movies, especially about religion, but don't really necessarily take a stance, and almost like it's clearly from the mind of someone who is devout but has questions, and I think that speaks to anyone of any religion, and it really spoke to me too. So yeah, Silence, fucking Scorsese, man,
Powerhouse, dude.
Yeah,
movie's unbelievable. All right.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, I'm like, like, wait, it's my turn. I don't know why I'm looking this up. I know. My number 3 is The Master.
Nice.
Some of the best acting in anything I've seen this decade. Very confident direction, looks absolutely beautiful, great conceptually, very affecting. I also look back fondly on the day as we saw it at the Music Box. We walked all the way home, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah. It's a staple day. But I just remember the hype being so big for this thing and it somehow exceeding it and almost subverting the hype and becoming like something else that I was expecting, which was way better. Yeah, I don't know. It's an extremely good movie. It was one that I easily jumped on when I was thinking best of the decade. It was one of the first ones I threw on there. Every time I watch it, I get something new from it. And also, yeah, that score is tip top.
Pretty solid.
Oh yeah, love it. Love it!
The Master. That's a movie you guys talked about it. I need to rewatch it.
It's so good. It's so good.
I've seen it a couple times, but it's been a while. And sadly didn't make my list, but I feel like it easily could have. You know?
Yeah.
We all have regrets, right? There's regrets.
Yeah.
That one's mine.
Sean looks like he might be having some right now. You typing over there, bud?
Dealing with a work email, because that's real life. But
I gotcha. Sorry.
No, it's fine. The Master.
Number 2, bud.
Let's see.
This is where he decides what's going to be number 1 and what's number 2.
No, these two I had. My number 2 best movie of the decade is a documentary. It's called The Act of Killing, and it might be coming up in Zach's list, so I don't want to talk about this forever.
Who's to say?
I
Who's
was
to
waiting for
say
this
who
one.
put it as their best movie of the decade?
Huh?
Who's to say? Yeah, this movie floored me. It sounds stupid to have such a strong reaction to a movie that you can't move, but that was the case with The Act of Killing. Actually, funny
Yeah.
enough, Zach and I were going to go see Something in the Air, which was my number 11 movie of the decade, in theaters. And we were like, he came over to my house and we watched The Act of Killing. And then we were going to go see that movie later that night. And then basically, Zach went home and sat on a couch and didn't move, and I stayed on my couch and didn't move. We both just thought about the documentary, and then
For like over an hour.
And
And
then-
then texting each other and we're
Yeah.
like, I'm just sitting here doing nothing right
Yeah,
now,
like-
thinking about that movie.
like, how are you gonna go see another movie right now?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was. It's a perfect storm documentary. I think it's a perfect movie. It blew my mind. It made me, I think, see the world in a completely different way, and I feel like it's one of the most successful documentaries of all time. So, without being too hyperbolic, it's just one of those things where they distilled who a person was, what they were trying to do, showed it beautifully, and then showed how someone can have a realization in the most honest and revealing way I've ever seen in anything in my life. So, still not good enough to be number one, but just a great documentary, and probably the biggest accomplishment of the last 20 years. Number
Yeah,
two.
man.
Nice. Act of Healing. Great documentary.
So,
My number 2 has become one of my favorite films of all time.
Ooh.
And it's P.T. Anderson's Phantom Thread.
ooh.
I think this movie is just nearly perfect. I think it's a masterpiece, and in my opinion, and it's a movie I am floored by. As Sean said, his last movie, I'm floored by this one. I
Yeah.
think I can't believe it exists, and it works so well. It's so beautiful. I just love it so much. Daniel Day-Lewis is just unspeakably talented, and you know, it's kind of amazing to me that I'd watched some behind the scenes stuff, and I've read some stuff about the making of this movie, and it was literally P.T. Anderson came to Daniel Day-Lewis and like, hey, we should do something. And they're like, what if we kind of made a movie like about this time? And having a movie just like organically flourish out of something as simple as like, let's make something together is insane. You know, like that it can work and come out and just be perfect. And it's not even like a movie that was sourced from anything. It wasn't a movie that was it's not really drawn from anything else. It's just pure creativity, and they decided to make this story, and it just came from their minds, and I'm blown away by that. And Phantom Thread is just absolutely a movie that I love. It's a movie that I don't think I would love so much, because it's about a dressmaker. I don't know anything about that or what I normally care about that, but the performances are so well done. The way that it twists the narrative, especially near the end, and having it be so simple in a way, makes it just incredible to me. So, I don't know. That's just it's a hard 5 stars, man. It's a hard 5
man.
stars. Phantom Thread.
Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Number 2,
All right.
Zachy boy.
My number 2 is Jonathan Glazer's Under the Skin.
Oh man.
I think it's pretty much a perfect movie. It's executed so well. It's so assured and minimal. the way that she interacts with people in that van, I think is really interesting and like a crazy element to throw into something that's already so crazy. I think it gets across a lot with very little. It's very stark. The score is pretty sparse and minimal, but there's so much feeling in it, and it's kind of like a movie based on feeling in a way, which I think is interesting. I think there's parts in it that I've genuinely never seen anything like it before, and not since. So I think in that realm, it gets a lot of points from me that it just felt really new and fresh. Yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about it. You covered it pretty well earlier. I don't know. I just like I think about that movie a lot. Like, it's from a technical level, from a story level, it's just so expertly executed that yeah, had to be up there for me, you know. She's perfect. Mm-hmm.
I've got. Oh my god! So that wasn't actually recording to the mic. So let me redo that again.
Okay.
You heard it through the phone, but having us talk about that movie because it's on all of our lists. I have the Blu-ray. I'm gonna pop that in this weekend. Watch that.
Hell yeah! It's
been
a winner,
like
man.
5 years since I've seen it, so it's a good one.
It's a great one.
So good.
Yeah. All right, we
All right,
are
Shawnee?
on
All
our
right.
number
Time's come. Number one.
Time has come. It's the number one. You know, when setting out to think of it, you think of the decade and where you were at the start of the decade and the end of the decade. And for me, my number one of the decade is Meek's Cutoff. It's pretty good, and I just think that it's one for me that it, you know, not to like put too much weight on it, it just kind of changed the way I looked at like how movies did things and what movies could do. And this is a year that I decided to go to film school and started making movies like on a more than just to have fun with friends kind of way. This was the decade, and this was one that like made me feel confident that I made the right decision. So I mean, without trying to be like an asshole about it, it's just one of those movies that like makes you happy that you get to do it for a living. I don't know, like I had never seen anything like it before, especially not in like theaters. And like most movies on this list that I saw theatrically, I saw at the Music Box, and it just kind of, I remember there was a moment where they're rappelling a wagon down this like steep decline, and it's very intense, and it's literally just like these wide shots of a wagon going down a decline. And then a car alarm went around like on outside of the theater, and it was like mind-blowing in like a really weird way where you're like, what's going on, you know, like what is this doing in this world, you know? It's I don't know, it's kind of movie that it's very personal, and it's weird to then have to like articulate publicly. It's just one of those movies that I think about, and I think about what I wanted to say afterwards, and I'm like, yeah, I just was trying to talk about Meek's Cutoff worse, you know? Like, it's just one of those movies that's I think also it's more relevant now than when it was made 10 years ago, which I think is the sign of any good movie. And I think in 10 years from now, it'll age even better. And Kelly Reichardt, I don't know, just for me a perfect movie, and goes beyond an achievement. It's just like so zeroed in to me. So I'd say number one of the decade, Meek's Cutoff. Maybe check it out.
Well, yeah. Any Venmo for this?
No Venmo.
Okay.
No, to be honest, like I think a lot of people will hate this movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if you like a 30-second long cross dissolve that fades in at the perfect place of the frame, send me $5 on Venmo. But if you don't like that, maybe pay me $5 on Venmo.
Yeah, maybe it's a thing where if they watch these movies and like them, they pay you the rental fee.
Yeah,
I like this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys list? You know what? Actually, don't pay me. Go to Patreon.com. Listen to us rant about movies. Throw them $5, $10, $1,500, and just really, get the ball rolling.
$1,500.
Yeah, they're trying
Monthly
Just
patron.
A mere $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like Criterion, who's listening to this, doesn't have that to spare.
Yeah, come on.
All
Yeah.
right, so I've talked enough on this podcast. I have nothing to do with this podcast. Let's get to the meat. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Wes and Zach,
Potatoes.
Number
Potatoes.
one, bro.
number 1 of the decade.
Well, my number 1 is Roma.
Nice.
Beauty.
So good.
I think it's just one of the best films. It's if not the number 1. Alfonso Cuarón, I've made a masterpiece here, and I don't understand how some people kind of underappreciate it, and how people watch it and like you said before, like have complaints about it. I think that it's a universal film that anyone can understand, that anyone can relate to on some level, and it's masterful work. If you think of a film that's master filmmaking, this is hands down one of those films. Every frame, every shot, every composition is perfect. What it's able to achieve in those frames is amazing. That the sheer direction is it's outstanding. So keep using words like that. Long story short, it's incredible. So yeah, I just think Roma is just amazing film. So.
It's a feat. So
That's
ambitious.
So ambitious. Yeah. It's my number 1.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah, man.
What a decade.
Truly. Well, Sean, you fucking guessed it, bud. Who'da thunk? Number 1, Act of Killin'.
Whew.
Saw that coming.
It's honestly like potentially the most affected I've ever been watching a movie. Like it really blew my mind, and I don't even know how you come about making that. Just this whole it being this documentary, and they're seeing the footage and what happens with the ending is one thing, but then adding this whole other layer where it's like they're there and they're letting them have this platform to make this movie based on the crimes that they did. It's just like the most insane concept, and it comes
crazy
together so well. It's just such a smart movie, and there's so much empathy, and like the way that they kind of transfer that to their subjects, I think is really interesting and not really seen in much else ever. It's another one that's just like felt completely fresh and like nothing I've ever seen before, and I think anything that does that gets major points, but it also gets major points when you literally cannot think about anything else after watching it. And The Look of Silence was also an incredibly affecting movie. Yeah, very good. Joshua Oppenheimer is a hero. And
One to watch.
Yeah, one to watch for sure. What's he up to?
I don't know.
Probably just steeping himself. It's got to take so long to get into anywhere to.
Yeah,
make
half the
something.
crew of that movie, it was like names were redacted. So,
Yeah.
like,
Well, also just earning the trust of these people.
that's
It's like
I don't even know.
it's so like dangerous, but also I don't know. It's interesting. I just don't. You have to be a certain type of person to even be capable of making something like that. And it's really mind blowing, and it's one of the most impressive movies I've ever seen ever, and probably the best one I've ever seen like come out in my lifetime for me. Yeah, I don't know. It's just so I don't know. It's the best. Like,
yeah, I think it's the biggest achievement of the 21st century.
Yeah, I'd agree.
All right. The Act of Killing. That's
man.
going to wrap up 20 films of the decade. Kind of crazy,
Woo!
guys.
Yeah.
We did it. We did it.
How's everyone
Congrats.
feeling about their list? Do you like how it shook out? You feeling good? Any regrets?
Honestly, indifferent.
Fair enough.
I don't think you'd ever be happy with.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
I don't
really
think you ever
hard.
will.
No.
I'm not fully happy with mine, but
No.
there's so many I wish I had included, but you can't.
You got honorable mentions, Wes?
Act of Killing, for sure.
Mhm.
That's one that just edged out for me. It's kind of interesting since we're talking about it. It's like it's amazing how some films can have such a bigger impact on people, depending
Yeah.
on, it didn't
Yeah,
have
man.
as much of an impact on me, but
Mhm.
I totally understand your point of view and your respect for the movie. I think it's amazing. It
Yeah,
just
yeah.
didn't have the same kind of impact
Yeah,
for
totally.
me. But I didn't actually list any.
I haven't either.
honorable mentions.
You said a couple.
could-
Le Havre was one that would be for me. Honorable mention.
I think Dogtooth for me. Yeah, that's
yeah.
Yeah.
that's a big one. What else? Cemetery of Splendor. That's a good movie.
Well, maybe Sean will have some here on his little extras list that he's gonna read
Is
off.
he? Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. So I guess since I don't know, I didn't want to read them off, but honestly, Zach and Wes
You
really
need to
insisted.
quit it, dude.
So
I'm giving you the chance to read the list.
Quite the opposite, actually.
yeah, I mean, maybe. I made a top 30, and I'll proceed to read that off now with no description, because that's what I was forced to say. Number 21, The Revenant. Number 22, Certified Copy. Number 23, Carol. Number
Carol was
24,
this one.
this
Carol's
one
good.
I was surprised wasn't on people's lists. Her. Thought that'd be on some lists.
I considered it. I definitely
Yeah.
considered it. That's an honorable mention for me. Yeah.
Number 25, The Homesman. Number 26, Uncle Boon Me.
Good one.
Number 27, Mad Max Fury Road. Number 28, We Need to Talk About Kevin. Number 29, Lucky. Number 30,
Lucky's a good one.
The Irishman.
That's
That went
Oh.
on and off my list too, so that's an honorable mention for me.
There were a lot of duplicates from filmmakers and stuff that
Yeah.
killed me, but like
Yeah.
certain things like Contagion. It's
yeah.
like, oh,
I didn't have any Soderbergh, and I was just like, I gotta work in the
Yeah.
But that's where it's weird. It's like, if you're restricting
Right.
yourself to one film per director, which I agree with and think makes sense, but then it's like I love the Coen brothers. If A Serious Man had come out this decade, it would have been my like number 3 or something. But you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But it's like this
Yeah.
decade, I don't know.
well,
Like,
I mean, there's certain films that like kill me that weren't on my top 20 or
Mhm.
top 30,
yeah,
but I didn't put them up. Like, this is like literally meaningless, but like Grand Budapest Hotel,
yeah, that was
Yeah,
another
man.
one for me.
and
yeah.
also
Yeah, same.
weirdly enough,
I considered that one. Yeah.
I sat for a while trying to work in Dunkirk. And was like so mad at myself I didn't work in Dunkirk. Like, I have like a whole list of ones that I was like, couldn't find a fucking spot for The Beguiled, huh? Like
Yeah.
talking to myself, like,
I
or like
know,
It's
man.
hard.
First
Like, there's no
Reformed.
Spike
Good
Lee on
films.
anyone's list too.
Oh.
Like no Spike Lee. No.
I know.
There was another big one that I just forgot.
Holy Motors I thought would work in.
Holy Motors was one
Even
that
like
I had for a
even
while.
weird stuff like Gone Girl. This is like
Mhm.
Yeah.
Spike
Gone
Lee.
Girl's
Venture.
so good.
Social
No Venture.
Network. Not on
Social
anyone's,
Network
that's
is a
good
big one. That's a
No,
big one. Yeah.
Safdie brothers are pretty big right now. No Safdie boys for anyone.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah, it's
Crazy.
interesting because initially I was like, if I put on Dogtooth, that's high up, but if I put on The Lobster, significantly lower. You know what I mean? Which is not like there's a huge gap between the quality of those, but like
The Lobster
just the way that
got cut,
yeah.
but
Yeah, The Lobster.
Dogtooth.
It's just interesting the way the one filmmaker thing. Did you have any doubles? Because you said you didn't do that rule, but I also didn't catch any doubles on your list.
Doubles of directors?
Yeah. Did you have two? Or you had the master and...
No,
I didn't have the master.
No master.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember now, but I had switched a couple as we were going.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. I think at the very beginning, like especially like right before we started, I had two Corrida films. I also had Shoplifters on there, and then I moved that. So that's another one of my honorable mentions. No one mentioned a Noah Baumbach movie either. That's kind of crazy. I think overall, like, real solid decade of films.
Absolutely.
There's so many good movies, man.
Yeah, like no one's mentioned Boyhood. That movie was like a game changer when it came out.
that was a big one.
That was a big one.
Which one?
Boyhood?
Oh, yeah. That was one that I had just taken off the list like today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that was on my list. It's like
so many good ones. Honestly, I was like happy when either you put one on your list. Like First Reformed didn't make my list. I was like bummed about it.
Yeah, totally.
I was thinking about doing a little whiskey Pepto-Bismol to soothe my soul.
It's a good movie.
I just saw that in something else. There was some other thing I watched with whiskey and Pepto-Bismol.
What?
Yeah, it's
really
weird, right? Yeah,
that is weird.
I think. I mean, this was the decade all of us went to film school.
Mm-hmm.
Dove probably a little deeper into our film love, film knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's interesting that, like, obviously this is this decade, so it's like, a lot of the film work you do is from decades past, like watching old stuff and kind of learning old directors that you discover for the first time, but like pretty developmental decade for all of us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of us have careers in
Professionally,
video-related fields.
for sure.
It's interesting to think that like this is the decade that like that became a reality.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about, isn't it?
It's wild, man.
Whew. Well, yeah, man. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. As always, you can find other episodes of this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and YouTube.
Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and if you enjoy the show, leave us a review on iTunes, because everyone brings us more listeners.
Yeah, and you can email us at...
Sorry. You can email us at listentousrantaboutmovies@gmail.com.
Thank you to Sean, our Patreon producer, and our other Patreon supporters. You too.
Let's be real. If you guys make it to this point in the episode, these guys have been doing this podcast for, I want to say, 4.5 years?
I think 4, yeah. Over 4 years for sure.
So if you're not donating and you're listening to this part of the podcast, get fucked. Get fucked or break out the checkbook.
That's the producer speaking.
Look, you know what? Look, let's call out some names. Andrew Fortnum, you're probably listening to this right now.
God damn.
Get fucked. Donate some shekels, bud. Donate some shekels, bud.
Well, yeah, if you don't want to get fucked, I mean, hey, you can donate $1 at our Patreon page.
Yeah.
No one wants to get fucked. If there's one thing I know, it's that you don't want to get fucked.
You don't want to get fucked.
Definitely don't. Yeah, patreon.com/LTURAM podcast. One more I just thought of real quick.
Yes, please.
No one had Burning on their list.
Burning is a good one. I think Burning, if I redid my 2018,
yep,
Burning would be in there.
It's
I rewatched
Fine Wine Award that year. Or wait, Fine Wine Award.
This guy.
Huh?
Your wine cellar is getting pretty full.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. That one just came to mind.
Oh, real quick, Tucker and Dale no, I'm kidding. Remember that movie, Tucker and Dale? People used to love that movie.
That's a good rewatchable movie if you just want to throw something on. It's always on like Netflix or something.
Let's talk about the most watchable movie of the decade. Let's keep this thing going. This thing's only been going for 2.5 hours.
All right. Well, that being said, we're gonna
like at the very end, after you guys did the sign off, it's like, so what do you guys think about TV? TV in the decade. Did you guys watch Burn Notice?
Good stuff.
Burn Notice, dude.
All right, guys. Well,
right,
good
cool.
times as always.
Yeah,
Talk
man.
to you later.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
All right. Thanks for coming back.